Hello friend. Season
4.
The Mystical American Patriot Society is transmitting to you from a high desert encampment on the frontier of our agrarian hoplite republic. This is a variety program for happy warriors who are getting some seriously bad vibes from the deranged post-Christian technocracy. Grab a tankard of yak's milk and join us by the campfire as Sumo and Cavi return to shake your surveillance, expel your parasites, and generally have a good time. Are you ready? Stand by.
Mystical American Patriot Society. Now available in 3 dimensions.
Hello, Cavi. Hello, how are you today, Cavi? Good sir. Good cat.
I'm doing good.
Excellent. How is everything in your neck of the woods? Your big neck of the woods up there?
Pretty woody.
Yeah. If you don't know, Cavi, when he's not on the spaceship with me, lives in a very wooded area. How would you describe it? Mountainous, lush, green?
Yeah, like just right beside the mountains, basically.
Right beside the mountains. It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful world that we all inhabit. Cavi, do you have your phone with you handy?
Yes.
Can you call a number for me?
What kind of number?
A phone number.
A Canadian phone number or a long distance phone number?
Well, it doesn't matter. We make so much good money from this show that we could afford it, right? I mean,
what's the number?
It's a U.S. number, so I think you have to put in a country code, which would be 1, because the U.S. is number 1. 719-266-2837, and please put that on speaker so everyone can hear.
Oh, no.
You have dialed a long-distance number.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going to hang up from C. Wolf Tybee. What is that?
What now?
It says C. Wolf Tybee.
That's not correct, I don't think. What did you do? 719-266-2837?
Okay, let's try one more time. 719.
Yep. 266.
Okay, hold on. Let me try a +1 in front of this.
Yeah, you gotta do a +1.
Okay, so
719.
Okay.
266-2837.
Yeah, C. Wolf Tybee. It says I'm calling.
Welcome to Callin Oats, your emergency Hall and Oats helpline. To hear one-on-one, please press 1. To hear Rich Girl, please press 2. To hear Man-Eater, please press 3. To hear Privatize, please press 4.
And just make your selection.
You're a rich girl.
Good choice.
You know it don't
Not in a way. You can rely on for listeners. I don't think Cavi has his audio set up properly. This is Callin Oats. Callin Oats. It's like Hall and Oats, but this is a remnant from a bygone era. Did you ever heard of Callin Oats before, Cavi?
I think I've heard of the original thing that it's spoofing.
What is it spoofing? I don't know about that.
Isn't it a band name or something?
Oh, Hall and Oats. Yeah. It's obviously Hall. Here, I'll call it from mine so people can hear better. I think.
Welcome to Callin Oats, your emergency Hall and Oats helpline. To hear one-on-one, please press 1. To hear Rich Girl,
Rich Girl, obviously.
please press 2. You're a rich girl, and you're gone.
How's mine coming through?
You know it don't
Pretty good.
You can rely on the old man's money. You can, and so that's a number you guys can call. It is 719-266-2837. If you ever have an emergency where you need to hear Hall and Oats, only their 4 most popular songs. You can't get the back catalog.
And you don't have YouTube or Spotify, or
if you don't have YouTube or Spotify, if you don't have anything, but cellular service, no data, and you need Hall and Oats
or a
landline,
I guess,
or a landline from anywhere in the world.
Long distance might apply.
Long distance might apply, and you need to hear one of the 4 most popular Hall and Oats songs. You can call that number. Again, I will give it to you. It is 719-266-2837. I don't know who maintains this. I guess maybe it was when you called it. It gives the contact as Seawolf.
Oh,
that right?
said, what did it say? Let me check my history. It was really weird.
Yeah.
Sea Wolf Tybee.
Seawolf Tybee.
Sea like the ocean. Wolf like the animal. Tybee.
Seawolf Tybee. Right. So that's maintained by someone that the phone company recognizes as Seawolf Tybee. My point is this. That's a remnant from a different time of the internet when people used it mainly for doing weird, I think Callin Oats began. I was first aware of it in maybe like 2012. I may be misremembering that totally. It may have been much later or earlier, but it feels like it's been a while. And it seems like a cultural artifact from a different time when, mostly the internet was for goofs, for being silly, for people would use it because everyone's work and entire life had yet to migrate to the internet. People still lived somewhat of their lives not on the internet. That no longer applies. The iPhone came out in 2008, somewhere in there, 2007. It's about 4 years.
Correct.
It's about 4 years after the iPhone. That old internet is the last gasps of that sort of early internet, Web 1.0 thing that was happening. And what has happened since? I think everyone is uncomfortable with it and the direction that technology has taken us. And today we're going to look at a particular set of films, specifically a movie, The Backrooms, which is, and what I claim is it represents how the new up-and-coming Generation Z, is dealing with the trauma of the iPhone / the internet / the omni-surveillance. Are you familiar with The Backrooms, Cavi?
I haven't seen this movie, but I'm familiar with the concept.
You're familiar with the concept. Please explain to the listeners at home. Let's call them, I've been feeling like we should transition to calling them users. Like users. Is that better than listener? Oh, I think Cavi, hold on. I think Cavi has.
I lost you for a bit there.
Oh,
you're back now.
I said I've been thinking about transitioning to calling them users. Do you think that's better, or should we stick with listeners?
I think ultimately you need to start a cult and come up with like your own special cult
I
language.
do need a cult.
That's what the
Increasing.
marketing people say.
Yeah, the end result of this has to be a cult. Although that was one of the beginning things. Episode 1, we said, episode 1 of this show, I did a whole thing on how this was not a terrorist organization and it wasn't a cult. I remain confident it will not morph into a terrorist organization. I cannot remain as confident that it will not morph into a cult. I don't know why. The people it's the audience. The audience that's following increasingly wants cults. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to satiate them. They need a. Maybe it's not me that is the cult leader. Maybe I'm just a Pied Piper leading them. I'm bringing all these people together that want a cult, and they will spontaneously generate their own leader. I don't know what is going to happen. I hope one day I am not in Wikipedia under some thing where it has my early life, which doesn't have any Jewish stuff in it, and then my background, and then it says involvement in cult, and then I'll be constantly sitting at edits like, no, I wasn't involved, and I'll say, no, you were, and there'll be a thing where they go up in a hot air balloon and they jump out, and the ritual's terrible, but that's probably destiny. Probably have no control over it, but the let's call them users. The users, all of our users may not be because this is a podcast as a service. There's software as a service. This is podcast as a service. There's a lot of probably our users who are not as familiar with the backrooms as a lot of our users are not mostly Gen Z. We do have Gen Z people. They're not mostly people that identify with terms like brain rot and skibbity. Most of them probably do not say cap or no cap. Most of them probably do not wear baseball hats backwards anymore. They probably outgrew that. So, Cavi, just fill in our audience with what the backrooms is.
The backrooms is like a liminal space that looks like your picture. It looks like just kind of boring, stale, yellow office hallways and empty rooms that exists kind of behind reality. So if you clip through reality, you end up in the backrooms. And that's kind of video game speak. Because if you're in like a room in a video game, you basically have your 4 walls, which are basically like paper thin, I guess. And if you somehow glitch past that wall, the backrooms is the liminal space outside that.
Right. Yeah, good explanation. Thank you. So, what it is, as Cavi said, is that in video games, obviously it is a created space. It's a construction. It is a virtual reality, a virtual world. And the walls of a room that you're in, or the world that you're in, are just there to constrain the player from going too far outside where the story happens. If you're playing, I don't know, a shoot 'em up game, and you wander, you can't program infinite areas of bad guys to have the shoot 'em up, or infinite areas of good guys to interact with and tell you the story of the game. So you can't have the player wander off 500 miles to the south, and he'll just be, you have to constrain him in some way. But what that means, the way games work is oftentimes the player's motion and location is registered as an unbounded number. It's just like, but the map is constrained to some set of numbers, like the place that you can be. And no clipping, I don't know why it's called no clipping. Maybe I guess because you clip against the edge of the board. I don't know. Is the thing,
little layers are kind of.
Yeah. So the polygons of your character, somehow the math doesn't quite work in the computer code. And they've gotten a lot better at this. Old games, this used to happen a lot. Early 3D games. It still happens in 3D video games, but and 2D, but it's less common. But what would happen is if you approach, especially a corner where there are multiple areas that meet, multiple like boundaries, sometimes there could be like a floating point number in your position that would not fall directly in there, and your character would slip through the boundaries of the game, and he could still move. He or she, let's be gender inclusive, could still move around, but now they're outside the map. And oftentimes you could look in and see the map. Many of our users probably have had this experience in a game in the past. And that was, it kind of breaks the game. Usually you have to restart it and you can't get back through. Like slipping out, it usually happens accidentally. Now, speedrunners, people that make it their job, in big quotes, because, who has a job anymore? But people who made it their job to get through a video game as quickly as possible and stream it on Twitch or YouTube for entertainment and money have exploited these no clips to great advantage to go through a game very quickly. In some cases, my favorite being it's not really a no clip, but it's a glitch. Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo has been beaten in, I think, 32 seconds from the beginning. Beaten defined as you can trigger the end credits. And it's very complicated. It involves, like, you pick up a turtle shell, you put it on your head, you go backwards, you go to this pixel, that pixel. You stand in these very specific places, and it registers the RAM data in the Super Nintendo console equal to what happens when you finish the game and beat Bowser at the end, and then just goes to the credits. It's crazy. And they do all these things to no clip around, and they beat games. It's kind of fun. Again, this is the main problem with video games, actually. People talk about violence. No, it is that, as I believe, again, patron saint of the show, Owen Cyclops once pointed out, the main issue with video games is that a kid who, in, say, the 1800s, would have been autistically categorizing every kind of moth, doing something for science, is now using that same energy to autistically figure out the most optimal way to gather every ring in Sonic the Hedgehog. It's just a misplacement of energy, or not. I don't know. Maybe this knowledge will turn out to be very good. People said all this video game stuff was not worth anything, but look at Ukraine. It's video game operators who are killing people with drones. All of that, those years using joysticks to great effect. Now that has a real world application of blowing people up. Maybe this will too. Maybe it will. Maybe the guy that learned how to get every single ring in Sonic the Hedgehog in under 5 seconds is just the guy that we need for some future endeavor. I trust the process. That's what having faith is. I don't understand it. Do you understand it? No. Cavi, are you still with me? I have to check in. I have to check in from time to time.
I like the speed running where it's Super Mario 64 and the guy beats it with like half of an A button press.
That's my favorite. It's so insane.
It's crazy. Yeah, there's like multiple universes and stuff you're glitching through. It's nuts.
Yeah, stuff the creators of the game never, ever even imagined someone doing with their game. They kind of honestly play video games, these people, as if it were a musical instrument, bending it against the creator's desires and forcing it to do things it was never intended to do. It's kind of fascinating, really. But this generation that has come up with... Well, I'll start. When I say this generation, what I mean that the Backrooms, which is now a major motion picture, which began as a YouTube series. It actually began as a 4chan post, as everything in our culture does. But then became a YouTube series that he made based on this one 4chan post when he was 16. Meaning that he is younger. The guy that made this and is now a very successful director. He's now 21, I think, maybe 22, 21. He is younger than YouTube by a few months. He was born after YouTube launched, and he has posted all of this on platforms older than him, which is kind of like the old internet is well and truly gone because people are now adults who have lived their whole lives with what we think of as quote unquote new, the new world, as just the default, which is how it must go. At some point someone was born and there were no one listened to vinyl records anymore. There was a guy in Chicago who was he opened the last state horse stable in Chicago. And then it was gone. Then it was just cars. That's how these things go. And so these people now are making this, and I will always support Generation Z artists and content creators, because who else will? I'm not one of these people that's like, all right, they're doing great work across the board. They made the Epic thing, the Epic musical I talked about not long ago. They're making movies. They're making all kinds of great stuff. Now, the establishment, the Hollywood industry is not going to support them at all unless you get really big on your own, as this guy did. Kane Parsons is his name. Unless you get really big on your own, they're not going to support you. They're not looking for you. But you have to do it on your own. But they're all doing great work on their own. And increasingly, you don't even... It is not... I mean, you can tell it's an animation, and but not as much as you would think. He made the original Backrooms... It is a movie. He made it in installments or episodes, but they all go together. It's like 2 hours and 40 minutes long, the one that's on YouTube. And there are several versions. The Backrooms is a completely open source, Creative Commons thing. Like I said, it started on a 4chan post. No one has copyright to it. And thousands of people make movies about it on YouTube. But Kane Parsons is the one that was the most popular and really blew up. But what he made is very, you can tell it's an animation, but it's good enough you get lost in it and stop noticing that it's an animation. And he did it, the entire thing just hit on him on his computer by himself, which is kind of wild. That's I don't know. Are you familiar with? I think he used Blender. Are you familiar with this application?
Yep. Yeah, it's 3D modeling. I've never used it. No.
He used Blender, which is a 3D modeling software, and it did a great job. I mean, for especially a 16-year-old guy, he said he was learning Blender so that he could make little shorts about Half-Life Alyx, the game, which I don't know if it ever came out. So in a way,
it's the newest VR one.
Okay, in a way, the Backrooms is a direct result of the Half-Life series, kind of, I guess. But I've been digging into it a bit, seeing all the other content people have made. People have got, the amount of tools you have on your own now. Like, there's been indie games released, which I think only had a crew of 3 people. The graphics are so good in some of these. Go ahead.
There's been indie games released by one person that have made absurd amounts of money. Yeah,
there's a couple of indie games about this, specifically the Backrooms, that look so good. It's like, is this a video? It's incredible.
They're mostly horror games.
Yeah. It's incredible how well small teams of people can do now and how far the technology has come. So increasingly, like I said, the institutions are not going to hire you. Increasingly, it doesn't matter. That's the other thing. Anyway, I claim to you that the Backrooms exists as a cultural phenomenon, and it is quite a big phenomenon. A lot of people are really into it. Like I said, almost all of them early 20s guys, younger people in their teenage years. Because they're a generation dealing with the trauma of a world of the internet and the iPhone. And also at the end, we'll talk about why people get mad about Flat Earth. So the Backrooms, this is the post that started it all. It is stretched out to fill the whole slide. But this was just a post in 2019, posted on 4chan, the X board, which is a fun... 4chan, don't go there. There's a lot of violence and pornography and weird stuff. But it's divided into different boards. One of them is the paranormal board that you can choose. And people post very interesting paranormal story. Most of them, almost all of them are just made up. But enough of them are interesting and you can corroborate what they're saying with actual locations, people's names. There's quite a few breadcrumb trails you can travel. This is one that came out in 2019. And it's a picture of that same room that I had in the first slide there. And I believe this picture was taken in Philadelphia when a Sears was closing in a mall. I think that's the lore behind it. This is a Sears building with old yellow wallpaper. If you're just listening, it looks like I mean, if you're not familiar with the Sears building, imagine a Sears furniture section back when they had furniture. I think they just sell clothes now. I haven't been to one in forever. But used to, they would have like furniture and little
They've all
displays.
closed here.
Yeah. Used to, a Sears was a store in a mall that you would go to, and they would have they'd have all kinds of stuff. Back in the 1930s, I think they sold houses that you could order by mail. They used to sell a lot. Now they just sell clothes. But they used to have like, and you could go in and you could like sit on a bed and try the different beds. Imagine that with different rooms little partitions they've made and put up wallpaper to make it feel like it was in a bedroom. But all the furniture's been removed, and it is a yellow, kind of looks like the 1970s, maybe 1980s wallpaper with a tile ceiling and white fluorescent bulbs, and it's completely empty. And the caption to the 4chan post of this picture was this: if you're not careful and you no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the back rooms, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell heard you. And so what happens in the back rooms, I'll go to the next slide here. This is one of the things from his movie that he made on the YouTube one. I mean, that looks really good. I mean, it's helped in that it's supposedly filmed on a VHS camera. It's a found footage thing, which has a low quality. But like, if you that could be a real place. It looks quite good. And he did this by himself when he was 16. Anyway, my point is, imagine you're in an office space. There's one of these near me right now, actually. There's a couple of office buildings that used to have people in them. And then over the COVID hysteria, they all went to work from home, and I guess they just never came back. I don't know if the company closed. I don't know if they rented a new building, but they just never came back. And so the lights are still on at night, though. The lights are still on at night. And if you go by it at nighttime, you can look in the windows and you see endless fluorescent bulbs, because it's a fairly long building. You can't see the end of it from one side, because it kind of turns around or whatever. And you can't really see through it. And so it gives you the appearance of like just these long hallways of fluorescent bulbs shining down on row after row of empty cubicles with chairs sitting there idly, and occasionally something like sitting in the floor that someone left behind. And it feels eerie when you look at it. It feels like, it's a bit post-apocalyptic in a way of like just the people are gone, like everything they left behind. Kane Parsons, the guy that created, he said his thing was, he asked how he described the backrooms and the feeling that it invokes. And he said, I think of it as the concept of a skinwalker applied to a building, which is that's a great image. The concept of a skinwalker applied to a building. So a skinwalker is a Native American mythology. We've talked about them before in the show. Is a witch doctor or some sort of shaman that would take the skin of another person or an animal and like make it into a suit to inhabit the spirit of that thing. And so they would wear it overlaps heavily with sort of werewolf mythology. And you would put on the skin of a wolf and then you would prowl around at night and stuff. And also, there's that common trope amongst conservatives about how, liberal institutions will kill whatever thing you loved and wear its skin like a suit, and it's kind of like that. And I think that Gen Z feels that about the world they live in. And whether or not they all articulate it as well as Kane Parsons does, I think that they feel it, and that's why they resonate so heavily with this stupid 4chan post. Because imagine your school, because there's all these different, it started as just this office thing, but people expand it, so it goes forever is the idea. It's basically infinite of rooms that don't go anywhere. Like a building that extends forever, without any clear reason why. You go into a room and there's a hallway, you go to that hallway, and it's never like, oh yeah, the reason you go into a house, right? And the reason the house is there is sort of for the bedroom. You need a place to sleep. Why do you need a house? So you have somewhere to sleep at night. And then everything else around it accommodates that. Well, while I'm here, I need something to eat, and I need a place to sit, and I need, so all that. And so you get to the bedroom, and very rarely is there like an exit out of a bedroom. Very rarely does the door to a house. Can you still hear me, Cabby?
I can, but you randomly keep disappearing for a couple of seconds and then pop back
Okay.
in.
Okay, hold on. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold on 1 second. Cabby, you just speak for a second, and I'm going to mute myself as I rummage around, and I'm going to fix this.
Do a little dance while Sumo crawls out onto the space station and juggles some wires around. Which he would if he had wires, which is what he should be using. But instead he's using space. Not good. Because it's very far away from the nearest Wi-Fi satellite. Which is
sound now. Am I better? Am I back?
I hear you, yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay, let me know if I start cutting out again.
Okay.
I think I helped, but hopefully that got through on the recording. Anyway, my point is, imagine an endless, did you hear me talking about the bedroom?
Yes.
Okay. The bedroom, that's the reason, and you go there, right? But imagine a building that had no reason for being. It wasn't to house anything in particular. It just is there. Kind of, it has all the pieces of a building, like there are lights and there are hallways and there are structures, but it doesn't go particularly anywhere. But as you go through these the back rooms, eventually it would spill out into other made areas. So there are videos where people walk through these things, and eventually they get to an old shopping mall that just goes on forever, and you follow that for hours, and you twist and turn, and you take a left, and then you hit maybe an old school building, and that goes on forever. Empty hallways that goes into kind of a classroom that doesn't, again, it's not really a classroom. It's kind of like a Man in Black, but a building again. Like it's almost there, but there's always something like, wait a minute, why is that? Like there's a stove. This is kind of like a kitchen, but the stove is like in the corner facing the wrong way, right? It's almost there, but it's not quite. Or there'll be outside areas like suburbia, but it's like everything. Well, we'll go into it, but that's sort of the concept of the back rooms, is that imagine consciousness and where we spend our lives exists on some sort of substrate underneath reality as we know it, and then that just kind of fractally goes forever. It's a sort of a wild idea. That like this is that beyond finished reality, there's the unfinished reality that the video game developers never had reason for that part of the map, right? So what is the difference, Cavi, between the pornographic and the erotic? What would you say?
I'll know it when I see it.
You'll know it when you see it, yeah.
As they say.
Or I would say, you know it when you don't see it. We'll get to that in a minute, but it's infinite choice. There's all these hallways, all of which go nowhere. Data without meaning. And I think that is the place that many Zoomers find themselves. They have on the surface, you have infinite choice, infinite freedom. We're all about maximizing personal freedom, but all the choices don't really go anywhere. There's infinite hallways, but to what? To what purpose? And I think that they have felt, and if you are a Zoomer, please write in and tell us if I'm hitting it on the head here. I think that they have felt most of their life growing up in the shadow of the iPhone, a lot of data without any reason for the data, any meaning behind it. I'm going to show you a picture of Cavi. This is a still from. Have you ever looked at VHS archives?
No.
No? Are you? Have you looked at old VHS photos, videos recently?
Not recently, but I'm familiar with the technology.
Yeah. So VHS archives is a place where people upload old VHS home footage. Often it's their own, but sometimes it's stuff they find, like at a yard sale or whatever. And it's very interesting to go through. It's sort of poorly cataloged and whatever, but you can just look at old videos. And here's an image from one of those. It's from December 25th, Christmas Day, 1988. There are three people, a woman in purple, a man in white, and another woman sitting with her legs crossed in black pants and a sort of Christmas sweater. And they're sitting in front of a bunch of presents on a couch and a chair. And these are real people. And Gen Z appears to have nostalgia for a past they didn't experience. Because the other thing about the backrooms, and a lot of Gen Z media that they make themselves, it is all referential of the 90s, the 80s, and the 70s, and takes place actually before they were born. So not too long ago, young people made content about the future, the imagined future, or sometimes fantasy stuff loosely based on the ancient past, like well, not really ancient past, but the medieval past, knights and dragons and stuff. But now what we're sort of seeing is a bunch of people who are coming of age, making their content, their stories, their movies, their music about something that happened within living memory of the people older than them. Because what we've all lived through collectively and what we're still trying to deal with is an actual Gutenberg event. More than as transformative as the printing press was to the world. And there's no going, once you've made the printing press, you don't go back. It's like a Rubicon that's been crossed. The internet broadly and the having it in your pocket all the time, specifically, is another such Rubicon that once you've crossed it, it's like, well, now the world's just different. Now the world is just different, and we still are really not coming to terms. And my claim that I've made many times on this show is that almost all of the modern dysfunction we have would either not exist at all, or it'd be a lot less without the phone. Is my internet doing better, Cavi? Am I breaking up as much?
No, you seem mostly better.
Good, mostly better. Yeah, as I said before, there's not as much. They haven't run fiber optic to space yet. Working on it. And so all of the backrooms content takes place with 1980s, 1990s technology. The people in the backrooms are using VHS cameras. They have computers, but they're all like, DOS prompts. And a lot of times they don't really have an understanding of how they would have worked. Like in one of Kane Pixel's earlier videos, he had where the guy, they're scrolling through the found footage of the person stuck in the backrooms. And there gets to a point where it cuts out, and he has the VHS tape say error, file not found, and that's not how. That's a computer thing. Like that's how a digital file would work. It's not how. But he doesn't understand that because he'd never used it, and he was 16 years old. That's fine, but something about it appealed to him. And my claim is that this video and this kind of technology is the difference between the pornographic and the erotic. And I got this specific idea and point from a guy on Substack who I couldn't find again. I wish I could find him I don't remember who he was. But he made this point about the difference in the pornographic and the erotic in regards to technology. And if I do find him, I'll tell you who he was so that I can cite him. But anyway, here's a photo album. There's another site where people do a similar thing, and they upload photos of old photos, analog photos. Here's one of a photo album, and this woman she's wearing the same dress and everything, and same necklace. Well, not the same necklace actually. This one's a white. She's with various 1990s TV and movie stars. Like she's going to conferences or something. Like I don't know what kind. She's with William Shatner here. She's with that girl who I recognize from a show, but I don't remember her name. There's the girl from Saved by the Bell and some other people. No one knows who this woman is. this, as far if the story on the attached to it is true, someone got this book at an estate sale. It was a stranger who was presumably this woman is dead, and we have no idea who she is. There's a story between each of these pictures. You know, how did she meet all these people? Why did she change necklaces? Did she wear the same? These are actually two different dresses. So these are at least two different moments in time. And between the two pictures, life happened for her, but we have no idea what it was, what it looked like, if it was good, if it was bad. And this is a striptease, in a sense. Because what makes something erotic as opposed to pornographic is that eroticism is always there's something you can't quite see. Why do men like a striptease instead of just the woman coming out there completely naked to start? Because there is an eroticism in the slow reveal of something and never quite knowing what it my claim is that there is something very profound about meaning making in not knowing. The way human beings make meaning is out of mystery, not out of data. We make meaning out of mystery, not out of data. Because, I mean, the woman behind the veil, she could be anybody, and you could imagine her to be whatever you wanted. As she removes more, she could be more or less appealing to you, or she could find you more or less the closer you get. But if she's at a comfortable distance, she can be whatever your heart desires. We make meaning by filling in the gaps between data, and what's perfectly known is dead, in a way. Anything you've actually perfectly known, or you can perfectly know, is not alive. And that's a really interesting thing to consider. You never actually know fully anybody. There's always something mysterious. You can be married to someone for 50 years and they'll still surprise you. You know, you can, my children, I've known their whole lives, and they still sometimes will do things. I'm like, why did you do, what is it? What, you know, like, I didn't know you had an interest in that. I didn't know you could dance. When did you learn? You know, there's always something in a living being beyond your comprehension. Something dead, I mean, you can know a piece of wood, right? I mean, you know its dimensions, you know what it's made of, how heavy it is. You can perfectly describe basically the whole piece of wood, but it's dead, right? And eroticism and also what makes meaning lies in what is mysterious and what is not known. So we'll go back to this picture in 1988, December 25th. This was taken on a VHS tape. This woman, it looks to me like there may be something on her face. Is there? I don't know. Will anyone ever know this man's name? Probably not. This man's probably still alive. He looks to be in maybe his late 20s here. People looked a little older back then. He's probably in his early 60s now or something. Somewhere. He's probably still alive. Unless he sees this particular presentation, which is unlikely, and writes in to tell us, hey, that's me. No one ever watching this thing will ever know who his name is. Compare that to today. Every piece of media has a whole story attached to it. People upload something on YouTube to say, this is me, this is where I am, this is the date, this is the time, this is the place. These people were probably, you know, what's this woman holding? I can't zoom in. On a modern pixel camera, you zoom in and you get more detail because there's more resolution than your eyes can hold.
You can't enhance?
You could enhance, but it would just be blurry. It'd just be a blurry mess. I have no idea what she's holding. It looks to me like a little jewelry box, maybe, but it could be any number of things. I don't know what she got for Christmas. I know she got something, and no one will ever know. And the thing is, we get to make it up. If you care about this woman and her fate, you can make up it. Who knows? And what happened between this Christmas Day in 1988 and the next time these three people were recorded? Because in 1988, they probably got their picture taken 10 times a year, maybe. They were probably on video 7 minutes, if that. They probably at family gatherings, some guy who was the family video guy got out his camcorder and he would record it, and that was it. And then they would not be on video again until the next family gathering, Thanksgiving or whatever. Maybe a birthday party in which they're in the background as he panned over the child. And that's all. Imagine a person today born after YouTube having the experience of only being on camera like 5 times. Kane Parsons was born, like I said, in 2005, after YouTube was made and came out. And his life, his parents took pictures of him every day of his life, probably. Every day of his life. Put them on the internet, shared them with strangers. He probably took a lot of photos himself as he grew older and had his own devices. He probably recorded a lot of videos. He is the character. He used his own self as an actor in the first Backrooms. So I know there's at least that video of him. And so actually his entire life in a way has been recorded. The whole thing. And in any one of them, you can zoom in on any part. You'll get more detail. And so in a way, what if we could find a home video from December 25th, 1989, a year later, with these same 3 people, and I don't know that one exists, we would have to fill in the gaps of what happened in their lives from the clues that they're there based on that. And it could be just about anything. It could be just now if one of them is like missing a hand or something, but well, I guess one of them was an accident in between them. But other than that, you still have to guess what accident. There would not have been a post. Like now if that happened, there'd be a post that you could look up on whatever medium, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, of like, oh hey, yeah, I have it checking in. I lost my hand today. I'm gonna get through it. Doctor said that. You have no idea. And so, in a way, the mystery allows for the making of meaning in a way that the data doesn't. And I'll try to explain that. Like I said, here's a bunch of this is early Instagram, early Facebook pictures. This is what the world he grew up in. The world they grew up in was I'm on video maybe 5 minutes a year, if that. And maybe there are 10 photos of me taken in a year. I think my dad maybe had 4 photos of him total taken from the time he was born till he was 30. Just very, very few. But now, look at all these Instagram stories. This is pictures of collages. People's entire existence. Often without their consent or will, by the way. These are children mostly that we're talking about here, or were in 2005. Have just been, my claim is that this style of collecting of data is inherently pornographic. This just shows you everything up front. Pornography is not a striptease because, there's overlap there, but pornography is very focused on just kind of showing people the entire business very up close. And it takes away, there's a sexuality to it, but there's not an eroticism. There's no mystery in this. There's only data. And this is another from this is some clips from people on the found footage stuff, or the VHS uploads. There's a picture of a guy on a bed with a cat, a very blurry dog, sitting along, dog and cat. There's 2 cats. They're both dead now, sadly. R.I.P. It's taken in 88, 91. A street. And this is a Zoomer, Hexel Gaming. He wrote a comment on it. He said, actually, and he's surprised about this. He said, if you search for videos of life in the 90s, you just find surprisingly little. There are almost no real flashbacks. And the Zoomers are sort of realizing that, I live in a unique time I'm sort of the first generation to ever be recorded from birth. To ever be recorded from birth. And you don't think at first, what's the big deal? So someone took pictures of you. Well, because if you look back on your life, Cavi, or I look back on mine, or let's pick someone older. Let's say someone that's 70. When they look back on their life, there isn't a lot of data to go on. There's just their memories. There's some data. There's artifacts of their personal lives. There's the place they lived in. There's paperwork. There's some photos and videos and so forth and so on. But you can kind of, from that data, rewrite your own past in a way that is healthier. And that's not to say you're making it up. It's a way of emphasizing some things over other things, attaching more importance to some events than others, looking at it a certain way, such that even things which are traumatic could be seen as a blessing. Even things which are hard to understand, you could put it in some sort of context. But now, any sort of story you were to make up about your life, you can look back on the exact day and see everything around it. And your ability, you have to now match all that data into your narrative that you've constructed. And it's very hard to do. You have to be a master storyteller to incorporate all the data contradicting whatever story you were trying to tell yourself. Which means that you can't do it. Which means everything becomes an endless hallway going to, like, what? There's no connecting story there. Is that making sense? It's hard to explain.
Kind of.
What do you think?
It's also like if you don't post everything everywhere and don't photograph and document everything, then it's a little bit different.
That's true.
But most people don't. Most people are going nuts, and
most people are going nuts
everywhere on the internet.
Yeah, and it's easy to say just don't do it, but the human urge to document is very strong. The human urge to share photos, and I'm not saying it's all bad. I'm saying this is a consequence. So here's another picture of the backrooms. It's a yellow corridor, and there's a table in the corner, and what is probably a smoke detector, or it's actually a clock, and two lamps. One is on, one is off, and otherwise the room is empty, and there's a shadowed corridor. Everything is recorded. It is no longer possible to make a myth. The singularity happened. We already actually lived through the singularity. No one noticed. The singularity is what happens when data becomes primary. And you see this in my claim that it's no longer possible to make myths. I will back up with the observation that urban legends have largely ceased to happen. We saw this begin to take place in the early 2010s when people began saying Pics or it didn't happen, which they don't say anymore because everyone just understands it didn't happen if there wasn't Pics. The transition of urban legends, there's some clips from the internet here. This is the transition of urban legends into the digital age has shifted their existence from localized oral folklore into instantaneous internet phenomena. As society became more connected, the mystery that once allowed these tales to spread and terrify communities is rapidly fading. Tell me if you heard any of these growing up, Cappy. The Babysitter and the Man Upstairs is an urban legend dating back to the 1960s about a teenage girl babysitting children who receives a telephone call from a stalker who continually asks her to check on the children, all while secretly being in the same house as the babysitter. Did you ever hear that one?
No, but it's a common horror story. That call came from inside the house.
Yeah. What about cow tipping?
Something like that.
Cow tipping, the activity of sneaking.
Yeah, I've heard of that. You tip them over and then they can't get up or something?
Yeah, that's not true, but it was popular.
It's not?
No, cows sleep on they lay down.
You're blowing my mind right now.
I know. They lay down to sleep. They can doze off with their legs locked for like a second or two, but when they go to sleep at night, they lay down. Like every other creature. The death number 999-9999 was an urban legend that if someone calls 999-9999 after midnight, they will be able to request anything they wish, but at the cost of their death. It was so popular, it was made to a movie called 999-999 in 2002. That couldn't happen today because that would not be The Killer in the Back Seat, I heard that one a lot. It was a common car crime urban legend. A woman gets in a car being followed by a strange car truck. She's the mysterious pursuer's flashing its high beams at her. Sometimes even rams her vehicle. She's getting scared. When she finally gets home, she realizes the driver was trying to warn her that there was a man, a murderer, a rapist, or whatever, hiding in her back seat, and so forth and so on. The Polybus was a fictional arcade game. Did you ever hear about Polybus growing up, Kevy?
No.
I think you had to be in the U.S. for this.
Maybe.
There was a game that was in arcades allegedly, but only in like the Pacific Northwest, and then was pulled because of some reason, and it made people seizures. It was like a dangerous video game. None of this stuff people do not have urban legends anymore. Really. They have, because all you do, here's what happens. I'm telling you a thing. I'm going to go to the internet and look it up. It's not true, or it is true. End of legend. Now, my repeated thing has been actually the internet just tells you an answer. It doesn't mean that answer is true at all. But there is what appears to be, often now in the form of an AI, a definitive answer. On Wikipedia, people will go like, here's what it says on Wikipedia, clap, clap, that's it. That's the answer. Going back to video games, I remember growing up, there were all these kind of crazy kids would pass around about ideas about if you did this at a certain time in the video game or went there first and got this, something crazy would happen. You'd find a secret level. Now you just...
Yeah, I remember that.
Now you just type in, is there a secret level? Enter, and it says no. End. Right?
And there were so on that topic, there were video games back then that were like kind of designed around that were designed to be like, oh, I found this thing in my game.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to explain how you did it and you don't know. But nowadays, like, you can't hide anything in a video game anymore because the second it's released, it gets data mined and everybody knows everything.
Same with movies. There's no such thing as a surprise movie. Everyone, like, there's no twist endings. M. Night Shyamalan can't do it. Everyone would know what it is instantly. And so now you say, like, well, okay, that people can't make up scary urban legends anymore, but they can't make up anything anymore either. And maybe that is a problem for the human psyche, which needs to make up stories to connect things together. And I think that it is, and I think the Backrooms is why. Here's that. This was the alleged screenshot of Polybus, the video game that never existed. And you know this. Do you remember this guy, Jonathan Frakes, who was Commander Riker on Star Trek?
That didn't happen. It's made up.
Yeah, here he is in his other very popular show, Beyond Belief. Have you seen that in a while?
No, I just know the meme of him repeatedly saying, like, this is made up.
It's made up. Again, this is a thing that could only have really happened, I think, before you couldn't have this show today. Now, they do make this show now in Germany with him. They revamped it. I don't know.
He's still alive?
Oh, yeah. He's in his early 70s, and he looks great, actually. Oh. He runs a podcast with the guy that played Data, Brett Spinner.
Oh, what do they talk about?
Mostly old Star Trek stuff. They're just reminiscing about it's them two with a guest, usually from some thing they worked on in the past, and they reminisce about the old days. It's pretty good, actually. The guy that played Data is very charismatic, even at 75 or whatever he is. Which is kind of ironic because he played a completely emotionless character. Anyway, Jonathan Frakes is great too. But this is a show that couldn't really, like I said, they did revamp it and they made it in currently in Germany. I don't know why in Germany. With him, I think, speaking German, even though he doesn't. They just tell him what to say and he rehearses it because his input is very small. He's just in between all the clips of the shows. But the premise of the show, and you can find every episode on YouTube. I encourage you to watch them. They're great. It's called Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction. Jonathan Frakes would come on. He's in this spooky-ish manner at the beginning, and he'd ask you these questions about perception and reality. And there would be 5 stories an episode that they would act out with actors, and they would last about 7 minutes. And there would always be some paranormal thing to it, or whatever, or some weird, highly. And at the end of it, and then they would show you 5 of them, and at the end of each one, Jonathan Frakes would ask you, how you felt about it, and then they would cut to commercial. At the very end, he would go through each of them and tell you whether it was a real story that actually, quote unquote, happened, or something the writers of their show just made up. There you go, fact or fiction. And it's fantastic because the things he claims are fact are so over the top. I watch it with my son, who's very sort of not into people making up stuff, and he hates it because we were watching the other one, and the story was a guy that was a private amateur pilot who just was a hobby, pilot, flew his plane around as a hobby. He flies it into one of these fly-in cafes. Have you seen those fly-in cafes? Cavi, are you there? Cavi. Cavi. He may be there. I don't know. Can you hear me? Cavi. Cavi. Do I have internet access? Cavi. I'm connected to the internet. He must have walked away. Cavi, Cavi. Cavi, Cavi.
Yeah, I got up for a second and ran to the bathroom.
See,
I have my headphones in so I can hear you talk. Back on my desk.
Okay, anyway, so unprofessional.
I will cut all that out.
Leave it in.
I haven't heard of a fly-in cafe.
Leave it in. It must be in. It must be in. Leave it in. Just put some I don't know. Anyway.
Elevator music.
Yeah, dude. Anyway, fly-in cafe. These are real things. If you have a private plane, there are little cafes that mainly just exist somewhere very out in the middle of nowhere. That their clientele mostly is people flying planes, and they fly into it. There's a place called like the $500 hamburger or something that you can look up. Not because the hamburger is that expensive, but just because to get there you have to put fuel in your airplane and fly. There's no reason to do it other than just to do it. The premise of this show, of this story, was like a guy did that. He flies into one of these things. While he's in the cafe, someone steals his plane, flies into the air around, and they're going outside shouting at it, come back down, and then he crashes it into the runway. And then they go there, and there's no one in the plane. And he finds a picture of his father, who was also a pilot, who died in a plane crash. And it turns out that they see that his plane was leaking fuel and would have caught fire. And so his father's ghost stole the plane and flew it up into the air and crashed to save his son from dying in the same way he did. And it goes to this, and then it just puts up fact on the screen in bold letters. And my son screams at the TV and says, that's not a fact. A ghost didn't steal a plane. But that show can only be made in the 1990s. It couldn't be made today. You haven't seen any of those, Cavi?
This particular show, no.
It's great. And some of them...
I've seen like other sort of similar crazy shows where it's like crazy ways people have died, or like all...
Yeah.
Stuff like
so, as an example of how the internet has changed our relation to media, the Blair Witch Project. You seen this movie, Cavi? 1990 or 1999?
No, I wasn't allowed to see that movie when it came out.
Came out in 1999. When this
I
movie
bet you if I went to watch it now, it would be terrible.
Yeah. When this movie came out in 1999, there was a legitimate, sincere belief held by many people that it was real found footage, that it actually happened. A lot of people were convinced that this was a VHS tape found by people that had been killed in the woods. This is not going to happen today. It's impossible. Media as such no longer exists, only data. The idea that you could pass this off as a real event, no one would believe it. No one would believe you. Like, it just wouldn't happen. And I bring this up because Backrooms is also a found footage film, at least the YouTube series. I think the new movie is like more professionally done. But the idea that you could do this in the past, it would never happen today. But back then, there was so little data to go off of. You couldn't look up all the actors' names. Like, who's this guy? Now you just put his face in there. Oh, right. Who's that guy? Where did they film? And it could probably tell you exactly where everything happened. Here's another picture of the Backrooms. This is the suburbia place. Imagine everything you're familiar with stripped of what makes it unique. So here's a house. There's a waste bin. Kind of looks like a street outside. But it's like if you just took the bare bones of everything that you've ever encountered in your life as a man-made structure and stripped it.
That looks like a set for like a little children's play at a school or something.
It does. It does. Here's another scene. A coherent story of one's life is no longer possible. He walked into a room in the Backrooms, and there was just these sofas sitting there. Again, they're not there for anyone in particular. There's no one there, just sofas. Another scene from it. Now, unfortunately, the thing is, in the same way that you can't make up urban legends anymore, and you can't believe in the Blair Witch Project anymore, and you can't believe in you can't create a personal narrative anymore. You also can't create a coherent story about religion anymore. And that's not to say that meant that what I'm saying is that stories of any of those things were fake. I'm trying to say something a little bit more nuanced than that. I'm saying that you also can't have a coherent story about what a nation is or anything because there's too much data for a story. Stories are about selectively removing data, if you think about it. Any story you want to tell, you focus on certain parts. Like when you tell a story about, I don't know, Cavi, give me a book. Give me a story or a movie that you like.
Star Wars, I guess.
Star Wars, back when it was good. You don't do the bits. You don't go through the parts where the days and days where Luke and Leia did nothing. You skip over his months and months on that planet with Yoda where they were trying to move things with their mind. You briefly show that and you move on. You miss all the boring stuff. You highlight
and if you watch episode 9, it's just nonstop everything. Like there's not even a second to breathe.
Yeah, which is why it's not good.
Like they don't even have, in the old ones, you have like a scene where like the spaceship will be leaving the planet and then it'll cut and you'll show it flying to the new planet and landing. And in the new one, it just cuts and they're running out the door shooting people. It's crazy.
Yeah, like there's too much data for a story to happen. It's like the Backrooms, a world of only connective tissue. Data connects the parts of a story together. You know, if you don't, when you write a novel, a novel writing tip, you don't go through the minutia of every action they do. And then he put the key in drive, and then he did this, and then he went to the bathroom, and then he sat there for 3 weeks and came up with a plan. You know, when Tolkien wrote The Hobbit, he just glosses over the 6 weeks they spend at Bjorn's house or the last homely house or whatever. Just glosses over that because nothing's really of interest happening to the reader. But now what would happen is that you'd see your pictures on Instagram of your walk through the Misty Mountains, and then there'd be every day you with the elves, and you'd have to scroll through it, and it breaks the coherence of a story because that's not the way stories happen. And people understand the world through stories. This is hard to convey if you've never tried to write a story yourself. But go try to write one. If you're a complete novice at writing a story, what you will first find that you will do is you will sit down and you will start typing or writing on a piece of paper, and you will have trouble skipping things. You will be writing and then and you'll feel the need to connect all of the. You're like, well, wait, I didn't talk about what happened in between. You have to just skip it. You have to focus. Story making is you take bits and you show them, highlight them, and then you connect them together. You select out data from all the infinite data. This show has become, which I guess was inevitable, after spending years talking about how so much is fake, talking about the nature of how we know what's real. It's sort of become an epistemology podcast, but this is how it works. We understand the world through narratives, and narratives are inherently selective, and they reject almost everything to create a coherent narrative out of the pieces of data that you want. And that's why you can make any sort of kind of stories out of a piece of data. The founding of America can be a heroic thing by religious people fleeing persecution, or it can be a genocide of greedy people wanting gold, or it can be a haphazard thing that of the result of competing economic interests between the Spanish, the French, and the English, or it can be yada, 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 yada. And depending on what data you want to pick, that's the story you can tell. But to tell a story, you could tell the story of the Old Testament from the perspective of the Canaanites, and everything's just genocide, and you leave out the part like, oh, but I didn't mention that I'm a giant that's parent of a demon. Story making involves rejecting data. And what we exist in, and Kane Parsons has grown up in, is a world with too much data for him to make a story. And so his life has felt like, and he kind of says this almost explicitly, I'm sort of helping him articulate this a bit. He doesn't quite get here, but he feels like, he said in one interview that Backrooms is heavily influenced by his own personal fear of death, which is a sad thing for someone that's 21 to be worried so much about. But there's a nihilism in it that is just kind of omnipresent. It's like this, what is the point of my life? I feel like I've been shoveled from one thing to another my whole life. You go to the school, you go to the work, you go to this, and it doesn't really go anywhere. It's just like an endless series of this and that. There's no meaning behind it. And the meaning crisis, my thesis here, is that it is created by too much data. The concept of skinwalker applied to buildings. As Kane described it, he said it's kind of like nostalgia for a time when reality seemed possible. That's his quote. And he said that is a quote that they sort of collectively, he and the other Zoomers that are really into Backrooms, sort of manifested together. Nostalgia for a time when reality seemed possible. And that doesn't make a lot of sense, unless I think it will make perfect sense to someone who grew up post iPhone, because there's a layer of everything is fake now, right? There's a layer of like everything is performative beyond just the infinite data thing. The other aspect is that everything has become performative. Everyone's on camera all the time. Everyone is posting not their opinions, but what they think will get them the most likes. Everyone is there's an intuition amongst Zoomers that everything has been fake their whole life and they are correct in a very real way. And so when they walk into a room, they don't see the room, they see a fake room, something that's almost correct, but there's something off. This is another picture from it. There's this whole element of like this company that called Async, who discovers the Backrooms, may have created it on accident or opened the portal between it, dealing with it and trying to understand it. It's kind of fascinating. He did a great job. Awesome job. Again, these are not real actors. These are just animations he put in there. When you first glance at it, you think that's real people in a suit, probably. No, he just animated this whole thing in his own computer. Great job. But there's a whole bit where they're going through trying to inspect how the power happens in the Backrooms, and they take these lights down. Even when they cut the cord, they continue to glow. And like there's serial numbers on them, but the serial numbers talk about places that don't exist, like Poughkeepsie, California, USA, 1968 or whatever, and it's when it was made, and that's not a real city, you know. Stuff like that. It's like it's so close to being real, but it's not. Here's some. Let's just admire together, Cavi, some liminal spaces from the people that that collate liminal spaces. How does this one make you feel?
Reminds me of McDonald's as a kid.
It does.
I don't know what that is.
This is McDonald's now. It is a play
Burger
place.
King or something.
Well, here's the thing. It's a McDonald's play place.
What?
Exactly. Now it's just screens. It's two chairs in front of two screens. Isn't that sad?
What do you do on those screens?
What kids do all the time now. The screen is everything. Everything is fake. It's nostalgia for a time when it's a nostalgia for a time when reality seemed possible. And you know, I'm more pro technology than most people, but there is a real problem psychologically that we've created here. That the answer to the way back is not clear. I don't think there is a way back. I think, like I said, I think it's like once you've made the printing press is a similar thing, because when books were rare, you had very limited amounts of data, and you couldn't record everything. And when things are oral tradition, things are kind of very loose. You could never, for example, shame a nation into destroying itself by bringing up its past in an oral culture, because you just be like, well, that's not the stories we tell about ourselves. But now there's all this written record, and you can bring it up and throw it in people's face. Religion changed incredibly when it was written down. And that was the thing that gave Judaism, in many ways, the edge over a lot of paganism, is they were like very much people of the book. Whereas paganism was kind of like, it was a lived experience thing. In a similar way, what we are living through now is a completely transformative thing, and I don't think you can go back. We have to figure out some way to live with it now. But the answer is not clear. Here's another liminal space. How does this one make you feel? These are examples of liminal spaces that people post online of their own, like when something that gives them a feeling of liminality, which means like not quite there-ness. What do you think about this one, Cabby?
Like a high school or something.
Like a high school.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. You hear me? Yeah, it's like a school. I think it may be a school. It just kind of looks like, I don't know. This one doesn't really
boring.
Kind of boring, yeah. It's kind of boring. How about this one? These are real places.
That one's a little more creepy.
This is some sort of alcove with chairs sort of slightly not arranged properly.
Old chairs, weird chairs.
Old chairs, weird chairs. I like this one. This is
that's a nice reflection.
Yeah, it's a gas station in the rain after it's rained, and the puddle is creating a perfect reflection, so it looks like the gas station is upside down. The gas station, you know, with the metaphysics of the gas station, and the reason people are kind of like them is because the message is, traveler, you're expected, even now. No matter what time. No matter what time, you're expected. And here's 9/11. This is the Twin Towers. And everything pretty much that the Zoomers make takes place before 9/11, which I've talked about before. It's the decade that never ended, because 9/11 skips 10. So you skip the natural ending. Let me go. This is actually a liminal space taken from the Twin Towers shortly before that day when they blew up. This is the windows of those towers. There's a glass table with 3 empty chairs, and it just kind of looks like a place that's empty of people. It wasn't, obviously, but it's interesting that someone found this sort of liminal aesthetic in the Twin Towers before they went down. This is part of the 2 hours and 40-something minutes of the YouTube version of the backrooms. It's divided into sections. They have different file names. This one's called home27647.mov.movie. Like I said, he's younger than the platform he's posting on. He doesn't really understand how VHS works, but he's uploading a VHS recording of the 90s, it looks like maybe the 80s, and he has chosen to give it the name Home, as many people of his. I don't even think at the time he really thought about it that way. I think he does now.
Starting to lose you more and more again.
You're losing me more and more again. Oh, this is the thing. We're saying we're doing too much. We're getting too close to the truth. How am I now? How am I now?
At the moment, you seem fine. Yep.
I seem fine. What is the last thing you heard me say?
You're talking about I was muted. You were talking about Home and then some numbers.
That's okay. Yeah, you got it. He doesn't really understand how VHS works. But he named this Home, and I don't think he really thought of it in that way. But a lot of them feel like home doesn't exist anymore. It existed in the past. And we exist kind of in a completely artificial environment. Like, another thing about the backrooms is it's totally artificial. There's no nature there. The intuition is that because they've lived in an artificial environment their entire lives. All these kids do not go outside very often. They do not go hiking. They do not, especially if they live in big cities. They're shuffled from one fluorescent room to another their entire lives, you know? So Zoomer existentialism is a hallway that never ends. They're always moving but never getting anywhere. And as I said, a quote of him is, my movie is driven in large part by my fear of death. Here's another interesting bit, Cabby. There are monsters in the backrooms. Not very many. It's mostly empty. But if you wander around in one for a long enough...
it's better if it's empty.
It is better if it's empty most of the time. However, if you know it's empty, there's a game on Nintendo Switch called Pools. Pools. I got it and made my son play it. It is a liminal space one. It is the back rooms, but it's like pools, like a public pool that goes on forever, and the locker rooms of a public pool. And there are no monsters in it. It is just wandering around in a creepy environment. But I didn't tell him there are no monsters in it. So he is constantly on the edge of jump scares. Like, he's he's walking around so afraid he's about to get jump scared. I know that that's not possible. It's just, there are none in there. If you know there are none, then the creepiness is not. But if you think there might be. And so one of the beauties of it is he only put in like one, maybe two monsters in the whole movies. And you very rarely encounter them. Most of the time it's fine. But it's just often enough that you think, anytime you're like, did I hear something in the distance? Did I hear something in the distance? But the interesting thing about the monsters he put in there is that this monster has what is plausibly, he never confirmed or denied it, a camera for a head. It has plausibly what is a camera for a head, and many have speculated, based on other things in the movie, that what this creature is a camera on the tripod that evolved into a monster. Can you kind of see that, Cavi?
Yep.
I mean, a camera. So the Zoomer is haunted by the camera on a tripod. And like I said, when he first made this is what I talk about the subconscious speaking. He claims he did not do that intentionally. The voice of the monster is various people, the voices of the people that is killed, but sounding through recording equipment. And so the thing that's scary is the omnipresence of everything being recorded. That's what lives in the back rooms. And I thought that was very fascinating. This is like a psychological thing of people just coming into a young adulthood, manifesting into a movie. In a similar way that, like, fears of nuclear destruction created Red Dawn for people in the 80s and so forth. What this is we've been always recorded, And that has prevented us from forming meaningful narratives about our lives. And the person that can solve that issue will be a saint, because there's going to be a lot more of these issues in the future. This was in 2016. This was when people were just starting to worry about phone addiction, and it had already happened. This is an article. The latest danger. Experts warn, the need to worry about kids' addiction to mobile devices. It's a picture of them all.
So,
go ahead.
Can I rant about that photo for a moment?
Which one? The one on the left or the one on the right?
The one with all the kids on their phones.
Go for it.
I have a meme saved, and it's the exact same thing. It's a whole bunch of men on a train, all with their noses in a newspaper, and
Yes.
The caption is, "All this technology is like keep making people antisocial," or whatever. It's the same thing.
Yes, except I've thought that too. Except there is. Do you ever use an e-ink device like a Kindle?
Yes, and I actually prefer reading books on that.
Me too. There's a couple of phone devices. They're all out of China, I think. But there's one that makes like a tablet called Daylight Computers or something. It's American. And they run Android on them. And if you use one of them, and they have a fast enough refresh rate now where you can actually like watch a video on e-ink, which is kind of amazing. But if you use one of these phones that doesn't have the traditional pixelated screen, I find you can do the same thing, but it feels like you're interacting with a piece of paper. There is something far less hypnotic about it. Something far less like it doesn't suck you into it as much. And again, the thing about the difference between that and the paper isn't recording you forever. This is a two-way device. But anyway, the war with that was lost before anyone even realized they were already caught by the monster. Like I said, these people in 1988 were on camera maybe 7 minutes a year. But now this kid right here has never not been on camera. And I think that has an effect. This is a kid studying.
It does.
Because
kids are scared to do stupid things. Like I did so many stupid things as a kid where if it was filmed that would probably ruin my life later.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean
nobody knows.
There's many problems. You could again, if you have infinite, you can just in the past you could just not talk about something that happened. And you could forget it. Now it's remembered you can't erase those parts of your. There is a gift in forgetting that we as people do not recognize. We want to record and remember everything. But there is a gift in forgetting that when you don't have it is a problem. This is a kid studying at his desk. He's on a Ring camera that someone has installed in their house. He's never not been on camera. And this is why I think this generation is so fascinated with the 90s. If you ask if tabloids and magazines, they'll say Gen Z's new nostalgia with the pre-internet world is about a slower pace. I don't think it's the pace. I think it's the inability to form a personal narrative in the absence of mystery. It is a pornographic culture as opposed to an erotic one. Now, was the 90s perfect? No, there were a lot of problems, and the seeds of all these issues were already sown. We were already on this pathway. However, the nuclear event of the nuclear bomb of the smartphone had not yet happened. And I know that can sound like old man yells at clouds. However, it's not old people that are primarily upset about it right now. It is people that are in their 20s that are having trouble. Like if you ask the question, what is my life about? You can just look back and see. You can't make up anything. You just look back and see. And everything is recorded. Now you don't have to do this, but there's strong. It's sort of like you don't have to learn to read. After the printing press happens and literacy culture becomes omnipresent, yes, you can opt out, but also you kind of can't. and you can not do this, but you also kind of can't not do it. As I said, all narratives come from the rejection of data. All narratives come from the rejection of data. And here is a myth of a picture of a leviathan being slain. This save icon destroys the ability to interpret one's past. How do you feel about this so far, Cavi? Talk for a moment. Share your views. I want to hear what you're thinking about all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm mostly following you. I think a lot of the technology stuff, it can be dangerous, but also a lot of it is people freaking out about nothing because I have no problem using my phone and not getting sucked into it with a regular display or whatever. Like my phone is a tool that has a few various apps that I use for various things, and that's basically it. I don't know really what people are doing on social media and stuff all of these hours all the time. I use the internet myself in a very curated way where I'm very much in control about it. And maybe I can give some like advice for that in a future episode or something. But yeah,
I think that would be useful. I think a lot of people do not have that skill.
Yeah, maybe.
I think a lot of people do not have the skill, and they've just been sort of consumed. But I think that is, their entire worldview is built off social media now, and they're all insane.
Yeah, but like I don't get like what you're doing, sitting there scrolling. Like I don't have time for that. Like what could possibly be that interesting?
I know, but people do it.
Yeah, there's it's the algorithms, and it's actually like pretty diabolical how they work because they don't. And okay, so this is I have a weird brain, I guess, because a lot of this stuff just makes me angry and it doesn't end up working on me. And one of the things that always drives me nuts is like gambling mechanics inserted into things. And that's what a lot of these algorithms do because you would think that like, oh, if you're going to just like mindlessly scroll Instagram or something, it's going to just constantly show you things that are cool. But no, that's not how it works. It shows you like lame, boring stuff. So you're like, nah, swipe, swipe, swipe. And then it shows you something cool. It's like a slot machine. You never know when you're going to win. And then
Yeah.
it hooks you like that. But for my brain, whatever reason, anytime I encounter something like that, it just makes me angry, and I'm like, forget this, and I'd like turn it off. So I
Yeah.
don't know, avoid the algorithms.
Yeah. I mean I mean, gambling mechanics. Think of how popular since the smartphone gambling is. Gambling used to be like illegal everywhere, and now
Well, and
people
they insert it into everything. Like
now gambling's in everything. Yeah.
what's that new store that where you can buy all the really cheap Temu?
Yeah.
Temu is like an online store combined with gambling because it's constantly spin the wheel and you'll get like this discount, or you've got a tiny bit of time to choose these things and then you'll get like one of them for free, and it's constantly like that kind of stuff mixed in with your shopping.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yes. Get all of these things have sort of leaked over into like the algorithm increasingly becomes the real world. Like the what the feed gives you is what people think reality is, and how the algorithm habituates your brain to process information is how you begin to treat everything else. Like I said, a perfectly known future has already happened, and a perfectly preserved past, in a way, no longer exists. There's too many threads for any to connect to anything. Imagine you think of the past as like a connecting thread of like a story, but what if there's just infinite threads? It doesn't. This is why the hallways go on forever. This is what I think the backrooms is about. But the hum, but people can't leave because the hum is comforting in a way. I do find. Do you find the hum of a fluorescent light sort of nice? I like it.
No, it drives me nuts.
Really? See, that's the difference. Maybe you're just. I like a mechanical hum. Sitting next to a hot water heater as it's just going.
I appreciate like white noise, but there's a certain artificial white noise that I do not like.
Yeah, I like a mechanical hum from a hot water heater. I like the hum of a fluorescent light. A radiator kicking over. But a lot of people. There's a strange comfort they also describe to the backrooms. Like, this, in a way, feels good. And they kind of get... It's a very fascinating subculture. As I said, it's not owned by anybody, even though they made a movie about it. So people continuously make their own content about it, and it sprawls off into all kinds of stuff of varying quality, in my opinion. Some really interesting and good, and some just nonsense and stupid. But it's a very interesting thing to explore, and I think it reveals a lot about how the upcoming generation has processed the post phone world. But now here's a paywall. And I want to talk about, if you join us after the paywall, I'm going to answer a user question, because this is podcasting as a service. PAS. SAS is software as a service. This is podcast as a service. We had people in the Telegram asking us, why do people get mad about the flat Earth? Maybe you have opinions about this, Cabby. I titled this next little section called The Creation Myth of Nihilism. Here's a little picture. It's a golden book made with AI, one of the wonderful uses of AI. Nothing matters, but please recycle. A children's guide to secular moral urgency, which I love. He's sitting there recycling in the face of an infinite universe. Nothing matters, but recycle. So, if you want to hear about flat Earth, why all of modern cosmology is incompatible with Christianity, all of it, evolution, Big Bang, why you really are trying to force a round peg in a square hole by clinging to it, please join us after the break. If not, we'll see you lost in the back rooms. Kevin, can we just put a nice fluorescent hum over this whole episode to this point? That'd be sort of nice.
The whole thing?
Yeah, just, just a...
Okay.
But maybe, should we tell people at the beginning, that way they don't think something's wrong? I don't know.
It's almost funnier if you don't, but then people might turn it off.
Okay, I tell you what. Here's what you do. In the podcast, replay the next whole copy this piece from the beginning, stick it on here with the hum. People can listen to it again with the hum, and after that, we have the flat Earth bit.
Okay.
Does that make sense? That may be too long.
It might be too long, and
it might be too long. Maybe not. Okay,
probably.
Listeners, here's what you do: add your
I'll
own
put the hum over this. Okay, yeah, sure. That's less work.
Add your own hum, users. Let the hum be in your heart. Let the hum be in your heart. Okay, until next time, we'll see you in the back rooms.